not be discussing an interview or a series. We have more discussion, conversation with one of the participants of Desteni-I-Process and Eqafe. He's been listening to Eqafe for some time. His specific process has been about schizophrenia. He's been very public and open on his process of walking. His mental points that he's facing within this mental illness as schizophrenia. So we're going to discuss how Eqafe has supported him with this specific process he's been walking with schizophrenia. And without further ado, let's introduce Tormod from Norway. Hi, Tormod. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Garb. Pleasure to be here.
Cool.
So, yeah, basically, what shall I say? For me, walking my life with schizophrenia had definitely been a challenge. And, you know, things like being born with schizophrenia is challenging from early on. And this would have me, what shall I say, ending up in situations that are not, or are far from ideal, and going through childhood events, drama, trauma, things happening that would leave a mark on me, obviously, like it does with anybody growing up. Obviously, to my understanding, we all have more or less degree of trauma from occurrences when we were very young, either suppressed or denied, or we are open about it. Anyways, this leading to me being born schizophrenic, how I reckon it, that through adolescence and youth, being, what shall I say, very much in uproar,
Yeah.
in opposition to everything, and not finding my place on earth, basically, or in this life, not understanding why we are here, why we must do things the way we must do them, and such a ordinary teenage quest, I would guess, and basically be in a position to all authority and systems and everything, like we do in Western countries. We rebel when we are young, mostly.
So hold on, let me just interrupt you. Were you, when were you diagnosed with schizophrenia? Was it when you were younger, or when more you were an adult, early teen? What age were you?
I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2003, and then I was 25.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, early when in my early 20s, and it is from here that I start to realize that my life has been extra hard, or extra difficult, or extra many bumps in the road on my path because I had this mental challenge, mental illness of schizophrenia, and not realizing that before that point of facing hospitalization and diagnosis. And prior to that, I would basically manage, or within that, I would addict to alcohol and street drugs and so on, basically making addiction something real for me, because all other reality seemed non-real to me. All other reality seemed like a game, a trap, a non-reality, a war, a conflict, a bother. Everything else was like far-fetched and delusion for me. So that I would drug myself and drink myself and so on, cling on to polarities as addictions, and basically, yeah.
What was the what kind of mind episodes, if you don't mind sharing, what was that like in terms of specific to schizophrenia? How did you see reality in the times where, say, you were having some kind of episode? Or back
Yeah.
before, you know, in your past before you started taking?
Yeah, so basically after the 2000s, I would, my mind reality, my mind box, my energetic self, you might say, started shifting, and I was not aware of that box reality back then.
Yeah.
I was not aware of how structured and dominant and everything that mind mentality and that angelic mind is to the human experience. How we were never taught that. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if we were taught that when we were young. So basically, my reality would shift very easily, like a snap of a finger. My reality could shift from one reality to a completely new reality and occurrence and situation of mind, because I would have separate projected minds of myself that I had to deal with, basically.
Okay.
In addition to that, I would hear like voices in the head, the nasty, spiteful, hideous, horrible voices calling me out on things and backshots of and basically just nasty thoughts and negative thinking,
Right.
thinking bad about myself and other beings, and conspiring deeper and deeper into my own pit of victimization, basically, and uproar. Yeah.
Okay. So you were hospitalized within this time frame when you were diagnosed with schizophrenia, and so you've had the full spectrum of mental hospitalization and were you given drugs and stuff and things like that? So you've had quite a path with mental hospitals, mental illness, seeing professionals and things like that, correct?
Yes, I have. I've seen a lot of doctors and a lot of, what shall I say, nurses and hospital care personnel from 2003 and more or less ending that patient relationship of mine. Last time I was in hospital was in 2013. So obviously that's like 10 years that I was in and out of hospital. In that time of hospitalization, there was, or relating to psychiatry and psychiatrists and psychologists, people talking to me about my illness, obviously, or my symptoms anyways. In that time of talking to doctors and medical personnel, there was not one single doctor that could give me a clear-cut definition to what is schizophrenia. He could summon it up from my symptoms, like this would be the symptoms, okay, this classifies as something that we can call for schizophrenia.
Right.
So it would be like a very vague and distant and, what should I say, etherical way of explaining things, more like making the whole psychology game more mythical and what shall I say, cryptical. So later on, when I found Eqafe, Desteni and Eqafe, I would learn directly from the portal what is the definition of living with schizophrenia, what is that core definition of illness. So basically,
let's segue into that. So you at some point found the Desteni material, like we all did the videos, and started listening and then started participating. What kind of, just give a little brief intro to how you found Desteni and kind of what state you were in, and what kind of light bulbs, say, opened up in your mind or in yourself to say, okay, this is kind of the path I kind of need to walk, and see there's support here that I can use for myself.
So basically my very first introduction to Desteni other than, what shall I say, the experience of the early 2000s. Like there was like this merging within me, deep within me, that I could sense. But anyways, once I saw a video on YouTube of the portal at this coincident, but at this party, and this was in 2008 or 9, I think, that I would more or less bump into this YouTube video. And I was at this time drinking and just partying and just basically wasting time in my life. And I felt like there was nothing for me of this existence. There was no reality for me. There was no room for me. I was not being heard. Everything was like upside down and very upside down. And when I found this lady talking from YouTube about dimensions, about something else, a sound, a foundation of something that I felt was something completely out of this world, basically.
Right.
And that resonated deep within me. And I was more or less hooked from that point. Of course, I was at this point very much stuck in and out of psychiatry, alcohol, drugs. So I had to unchain myself from lots of those connections. But yeah, and I was able to do that later on. But this was the point where I first saw the video and started to gradually, step by step, to investigate this further.
Right, cool. So in terms of the Eqafe support, this Eqafe Desteni-I-Process is a specific process that we walk in the Desteni group. Say those who are participating, everybody is welcome. I'll share the links on this video if you are interested in. There's a free course as well, but the course itself is practicing and aligning yourselves in the beginning with self-forgiveness, self-honesty, living change, writing yourself, and then living the change. These are the foundational tools that will support to walk the change that Tormod is expressing, and how he now, after many, many years of walking this process, has been able to reverse a lot of the behaviors and addictions that he was, say, stuck in the beginning with the schizophrenia. And Eqafe is a library of resources through the portal, which is Sunette Spies. I'll also place a link here on explaining more what that means, who she is, where she comes from, and how the Eqafe material itself has supported not only Tormod but myself in many different subjects and topics that we all face in life. And Tormod, just share a bit about how Eqafe has supported you in your process with schizophrenia specifically.
Definitely. So once I started to work with Desteni and try to find my path within, I first started to write on Demonology forum, a separate forum back then. I'm not sure it's not operating at the moment, but back then it was more like energies floating around, you might say. You might call it personalized energies floating around on the surface of this earth, aka demons, personalized energies or emotions. And these energies, these demons, have been, basically. And I was told that this was in me, and I was able to open up some of those points in walking, starting the first walk with Demonology on Desteni Forum. So basically, what I started to learn step by step back then was the very fine process of finding the emotion, the emotional expression or resonance within me, and from there find the memory stored within me, and open up that memory in great detail and map it out basically, and find the emotion, the individual emotion located in a specific situation of that memory. Working with jogging memory, ranting and raving, and working out all the nitty-gritty stuff basically. And so I, for instance, I would start to use Eqafe.com for specifically for support on various emotions like blame. How do I work with blame? How can I learn to handle myself with and as blame? I can say that it's lame to be blamed, it's lame to live in blame, but how do I work with it?
Right.
You know, I need something tangible, some knowledge, information, knowledge and information, practical common sense about how to work with blame. So then I would go to Eqafe.com, to Atlantean series, which is very specific with dealing with energies and emotions in particular. There's a very, very fine, articulate, just incredible long series about anxiety, about blame, nervousness, worry. All sorts of complex emotions are in the Atlantean series. And it goes to all the avenues, all the corners, all the systems of those emotional burdens that are located in all of us as resonant as memories within our bodies.
Right, so these series, specifically the Atlanteans that you're discussing with these emotions, it's something that a human being itself, ourselves, would not be able to discuss. It's something otherworldly, let's say, this portal access. So they are able to explain and define for us so we ourselves can understand what is going on within us. Because what has been created from human history, our past, is the mind consciousness system, which is the system that is designed within us that is creating, say, the emotions and feelings that we're discussing now. So this is a huge educational process that has to be walked in terms of understanding ourselves and why we exist the way we do. Why are we in anger? Why do we go into blame? What are the mechanics? It explains the mechanics of how it works within our minds and our perceptions and how we can relate to it. And it gives support on how to walk the practical change that we can do in our everyday life to support ourselves, to stop these emotions from wreaking havoc within ourselves and our lives, within our behaviors and who we become in these emotions. So it's a process and it takes time, but again, this Eqafe site is full of substantial support that, like Tormod said, I just wanted to explain a bit more on how these interviews are not your average day, say, interview with, a person on the street. It's more a specific source of information that should be looked at and checked out. So Tormod, what also in the Eqafe site, it gives the ability to have personalized interviews. Can you share a bit about some of your personal interviews that you've had, specific with schizophrenia and that supported you?
Yeah, so basically,
I just wanted to say that we had some technical difficulties, so we're back. We had to stop that other video, and now we're going into another portion of it. So I just want to reiterate what I was saying. Tormod, what kind of support has Eqafe personally given to you in terms of personalized interviews and things like that? How has that assisted you in your process with schizophrenia?
So basically, you say personalized interviews. Yes, I was able to ask for a personalized interview a couple of years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would ask about some questions about schizophrenia, because to me, schizophrenia was a big riddle. I mean, like it is to many people taken by this phenomena or suffering from this illness. Schizophrenia would be a big question, basically, and very few would be able to give any clear or precise answer. I mean, we could look at the patient, how he or she is suffering, and so on, but like from the own mind perspective, it would be like a diluted picture because of polarity of all people and everything. So basically, I was able to ask the portal about a answer about what is schizophrenia, how do we define schizophrenia, and I was giving a very clear answer to schizophrenia is basically when there is 2 or 3 personalities working inside me at once. Basically a war within me, between personalities within me. And this war within me is causing friction, is causing pain, disturbances, confusion, voices in the head, all sorts of symptoms to the schizophrenic being, and making life literally very confusive and living hell, basically, from all the commotion, all the war, all the conflict going on between the personalities that are like at war with each other, basically. So it's a very disturbing and might say serious illness, yes, to experience. And so that is the definition, basically, that was given from Eqafe, and that interview about schizophrenia is laying there at Eqafe. Okay. If anybody wants to listen to that,
I'll post them on this link so people can access it if they want to. So that's quite incredible. I mean, nothing in the past has ever had the ability to be able to share what schizophrenia is in terms of the internal mechanics of what's happening. And that's one of the gifts that is here with the portal. I mean, it's able to bring through anything that exists in this reality based on the fact that everything that does exist has a life force attached to it, or it's within it. So there's life within everything, so it's able to access that part of reality and bring it through. And there's a whole history of how this occurred, and there's many. Even there's a portal interview series on Eqafe if you're interested in hearing more about her. But back to the point of, yeah, I mean, it's incredible that you have been able to have this kind of gift given to you about what schizophrenia is, what's going on, and how much this would support, you know, people going through this to understand, you know, what the mind is doing within. And then through that, being able to use the tools to walk that process of change, why don't you share a bit about what kind of tools you use to walk through the schizophrenia mind patterns, things like that.
Yeah, so basically, like I explained, when I first started working with demonology and learning to walk what we call mind constructs, right, which is, I started to walk a demon mind construct, and I have now walked 4 or 5 different mind constructs. Mind constructs are usually lengthy or a construct existing of text explaining memory and stories of self from past and so on. Where we use the technique of self-forgiveness in the mind construct to liberate or to get an overview, to free self from that conspiracy, that connection between the energetic mind and the physical body, substance. So the conspiracies, the connections, the meeting points, you might say, the friction, the conflict between the energetic mind and the physical body, that meeting ground is very often turbulent and causing lots of friction, basically. And that is where we want to get at, you might say. That is where we want to be in, to forgive, to make non-lethal, basically, to take away the conflict, to get it to an understanding of the issue. So we would use forgiveness to release the energy, to open up the question, to open up the memory, and then we can come to an understanding of it, of the issue. We get an overview of ourselves. We can see, okay, so I did this in the memory, which leads to this pattern of me living today.
Right.
So you can see that a pattern in a lengthy mind construct. We can see, okay, I have this pattern here. I can see what I'm doing, and this leads to my living as of today, like a tripping wire, like an everyday addiction, or something that we do, something that we think, something that we act within that is not supportive for ourselves or for anybody else, but we still think it, we still do it, and so on. So basically working mind constructs and the specific tool of self-forgiveness is by far one of the most, without comparing or anything, it's just a brilliant and very awesome tool to work with, because it's not like Jesus or Allah or God forgiving me. It is me forgiving myself. Right. That is drawing a whole new picture of it. It's not a dimension. It's like bringing everything down to self, to understanding, and self-change.
Yes, and through this process with the mind constructs is part of the Desteni-I-Process, which is a course of material that is shared, and it's like a weekly course. You have a buddy that supports you, and you go through your memories. You work with what's going on within you, your mind patterns, and you write self-forgiveness. And self-forgiveness is a specific tool that is taught, basically how to use it, why it works, how it works, things like that. So you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then the results when you use it speak for themselves. So Tormod, let's share some of the results. What are you, after so many years, how many years have you been walking Desteni-Process?
I started walking in demonology, starting my first mind construct in January 2012. So that being a little over 7 years now.
Awesome.
From that time, I have managed to quit my addictions to cigarettes, to porn, to alcohol, to street drugs. I've been able to change, delete or remove the systems that were supporting my voice in the head. Systems and components and designs that were supporting voice in the head are practically gone. They are, I have taken them to a understanding and a neutralizing, you might say, they are no longer have any given effect on me because I don't allow it, basically. Things like where I live, I now have a very, well, I want to say good life now from where I live in a ecological camp hill village in a community. It's like a protected environment, and with nature and animals, ecology, biodynamic farming, and so on. So I am very happy with that, and I'm able to travel around in Norway and do talks at hospital or at different care facilities and talk about my experience, how I walk with schizophrenia, how I walked through all the memories and personalities, emotions and burden, and coming to self-forgiveness, traveling the country and talking about that, and sharing the insight and value of self-forgiveness, basically, and what we have come to learn from Eqafe.com and Desteni and so on, the very fine tools that one has to experience self to really know what it's like. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and you are quite an example for many to show that the tools do work if you consistently use them over a period of time. I've been walking the process for many years as well, and I have similar points to, I don't have schizophrenia, but I've been working with the same tools. I've stopped many addictions and things like that, and I've become more responsible within myself, able to direct myself and support solutions rather than become more part of the problem. So Tormod, I'm grateful for you being here and sharing your story. I'll share your link and your blog channels if you don't mind, so people can start following you and seeing kind of your walk as you've been talking here, kind of showing your walk. Also, I just wanted to do a disclaimer that Desteni-I-Process doesn't remove the fact that we all need physical medical support and advice, professional medical support and advice in this world. We use this side by side, so I'm sure I have used psychologists in the past to get more perspective on things, so we're not saying that it replaces it. So that's something important to know and understand. If you may need medication or, you know, medical facilities are there for us to support them, so for us to be supported by. So this is alongside the medical professional community that's out there that is also supportive in many ways. So, but this Desteni-I-Process supports with mental points, and again, Tormod is a shining example of this process. I've seen him walk and been walking with him for many years and seen his change, and it has been quite remarkable, and many people will say the same thing. So thank you, Tormod, for being here and being an example for everybody. I wish you all the best, and we'll see each other, I'm sure, in the future. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.